Hello, and welcome to another episode of Treasury Talks, where we speak with thought leaders across Delaware and across the nation. And with me today, I am so honored to have our own Delaware representative, Larry Lambert.
It's a pleasure to be here with you, Treasurer Davis. I always enjoy working with you. Any initiative you're working on, I'm immediately invested. So I'm just honored to be here working with you on this Delaware Earns legislation.
Well, thank you so much for joining me, and also just for mentioning that we are working on this legislation called Delaware Earns. I noticed quite some time ago just how passionate you are when it comes to empowering people, particularly in their finances. And I believe that this legislation is something that will, again, empower people when it comes to their finances, their personal finances. Could you talk a little bit about sort of what drew you toward this concept of Delaware Earns?
Absolutely. So when I look at Delaware, 50% of Delawareans are concerned that they won't have enough money to retire with. And then 54% of our businesses here in Delaware don't offer an employer-sponsored retirement savings plan. There's a gap there, and we need to meet it. This Delaware Earns legislation, EARN stands for Expanding Access to Retirement and Necessary Savings. This Delaware Earns program closes that gap. It provides the opportunity for Delawareans of all socioeconomic backgrounds to have access to a secure choice, a retirement savings plan that is state facilitated and universally available.
I think conceptually it's amazing and truly will be impactful. I guess one of my questions for you is, when we're talking about a program like Earns, what would that mean for your constituents and the people of Delaware from an employee's perspective?
From an employee's perspective, I can even speak on my own experience. For 8 years, I worked as an educator in the nonprofit space. I loved it. It was the best job in the world. In fact, last week, I was volunteering in a workforce training program here in my district in Claymont. One of the reasons that I had to leave that space was because I wanted access to a retirement savings plan. I wanted access to the amenities that corporate banking could offer. We are creating an opportunity for Delawareans where it doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter what your job is. You can have access to this tool, this transformative tool that will give you an opportunity to enter into retirement with economic dignity. A state-facilitated retirement savings plan is unprecedented in Delaware, and it will provide not only the retirement plan, but also mobility, so that when an employee goes from job to job, career to career, it travels with them. And for me, that's the type of transformative legislation that I want to be a part of. And that's why I'm honored to be working with you on this legislation that you've been crafting, that you've been studying, that you've been working with other states to make sure is the exact right fit for Delaware.
Well, thank you, Larry. I have to say, you never cease to amaze me. You serve as our representative, but I just find it really wonderful and truly a dedication to service when you talk about volunteering in the financial literacy space and trying to get others aware and up to speed on sort of what their personal finances should look like and where they could be. It's like the first step to empowerment. So I love it. And I love that you're doing it. On that front, I think about employers. We talked about the employees, and I think that employers have been through quite a bit through the pandemic. What would you say to some of the businesses of your district? Maybe how have some of those conversations gone, and how are folks responding, particularly employers? And truly, what would this mean for them?
That's one of the biggest benefits of this legislation. When we look at the fact that 54% of private businesses in Delaware don't currently offer an employer-based retirement savings plan, it's not because they don't want to. It's because there's a cost involved. This legislation removes that cost burden. It also removes the administrative burden, the burden of having to onboard, go through paperwork, and a long list of steps to onboard employees to your retirement savings plan. And then when employees leave, you have to offboard employees. All of that burden is taken away by this legislation. It's a benefit to employers also, particularly our small businesses, our low and middle income businesses. It's also a benefit because it makes their businesses more competitive. You know, some of our neighboring states may offer higher wages, they may offer different opportunities, but Delaware will be the first state in our region, in our area, where all of our small businesses will offer a state facilitated retirement savings plan. If I had been offered that opportunity when I worked in the nonprofit sector, I might have never left. I love that job. So it's a beautiful opportunity for all of our businesses to be able to offer that going forward. And also, let's be clear, our small businesses, all of our businesses, they really do care about employees. They really do care about all of us having access to retirement savings plans to be able to retire in economic dignity. So it's really a win-win for our employees as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. One of the things I think about, Larry, is just, I myself have been an owner operator of a small business. My parents were as well. And, I think about my parents, they're in their early 70s. They have not been able to prepare for retirement, partially due to, things that happened in their adult life, particularly centered around paying for healthcare and things like that. And, at 72 years old, running a business is not only challenging, for many of us, but particularly when we're trying to think about retirement and maybe slowing down. And I particularly think about the folks that are in that space, and again are extremely passionate about their own employees, and as you said, really do care. I remember sort of shifting away from our discussion around Delaware Earns. I remember when you and I first had a discussion around around banking deserts, and just how passionate you were about seeing more access to banking features in different areas, particularly in the Route 9 corridor and in areas that are underserved. And you told me this really eye-opening story. Can you talk about that again?
Absolutely. So I serve as co-chair of Delaware's Banking Desert Initiative. We're an initiative where we noticed that the densest African-American population in the state of Delaware also didn't have a bank for miles in each direction, and that's the Route 9 corridor, including South Bridge and Newcastle. And in that area, there's a space where individuals are cashing paychecks at liquor stores. It's predatory. People are cashing paychecks at liquor stores, check cashing places, and they're being upcharged 10% and higher in some spaces. These are the spaces where individuals need legislation like Delaware Earns. I remember at one point, me and my brother, we were at one of these corner stores, and the grandmother in front of us, you could see she was exasperated. She had some grandkids with her, and she was trying to cash her paycheck, and the guy charged her something high. It was over 10%. And the woman was upset. She was crying, and my brother stood up for her. And in that space, we have vulnerable people, hardworking people, people that have solutions, that have agency, that want to be able to survive in economic dignity, but there are barriers, there are systemic things that are out of their control. And that's why we started the Banking Desert Initiative. And that's one of the reasons why this legislation is so important. When we look at wealth in Delaware, Black and Latino families have half the wealth of our white families. We also see gaps when it comes to other things, and we need to make sure that we close those gaps. And that's why, for me, this bill really does provide the opportunity for individuals to be able to save, to get that financial literacy. One of the best parts of this legislation is the education component. We not only educate employees on how this works, but we also educate employers on the auto IRA plan and how it works for them. And that's one of the things that I really appreciate about this Secure Choice program.
Yeah, and I love one of the things you said is, we sort of see folks that just want to survive. And I think what you and I truly would love to see come to fruition is going from just surviving to thriving.
Exactly.
And empowered to make some of those decisions, particularly in retirement. And really in the day to day, that we're not stuck, settling for less than. And instead, we have the same services that are being offered to all people. So I love your passion, and I love that we've been able to partner on this again. I just want to thank you so much for that energy that you bring to what we're trying to do together, and some of the ability to make those connections. It's really been wonderful seeing you and seeing that passion in you and really watching it sort of seep into all that you do. So thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you, Treasurer Davis. It's always an honor to work with you. You were always a big supporter of the Banking Desert Initiative. And it's through your leadership, through your guidance, that Delaware is really going to bring all of our families into a space of savings, into a culture of financial literacy. And we appreciate your guidance.